How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh outweigh the bad. I thought we get to see forever. In addition to our sister Carolyn, we'd like to take a moment of silence to read the names of other Evanston lives that were lost in the past 20 years. So, James Pappas, David Blissett, Richard Tinch, Derek Dudley, Narcelle Love, Jacqueline Paul, LaShawn Bishop, Joseph Fouché, Domenico Kennedy, DeAndre Redmond, Robert Gresham, Aaron Morales, Booker Guy, Daryl Pickett, Javar Brooks, Hedler Torres, Knoxley Morrison, Craig Smith, Leslie Calvin, Marcus Davis, Keith Tucker, Ladoyus Blackburn, Day Coleman, Justin Murray, Javar Bamberg, Azim Hakim, Mubin Hakim, Keteron Prester, Floyd Gilbert, Albert Norman, Ray Owens, Dante Blackwell, Cesario Cox, Benjamin Bradford, Star Paramore, Hamza Hamush, and Yaksek Samar.
She is why I'm here today. She's my daughter. She's a victim of gun violence in Chicago. She was murdered November 2nd in Chicago, and she's an Evanston native. We're from Evanston. That's why I'm here. What's going on right now is it's amazing what's going on across the country, and I think we're gonna get something very positive out of this. We just keep at it, and it'll be better. It'll be a better thing for the future of our children.
I'm with Moms Demand Action Evanston and the Wear Orange Lead, and we're celebrating Wear Orange today, June 2nd, 2018 in Evanston. I'm really excited to be here. I'm tired, but I'm really excited to be here because it's really important to remember all the victims of gun violence. Evanston's not immune, like everywhere in our country. And I think it's important to focus on all of the victims to gun violence, and also as a community come together and try to figure out ways to solve this problem and make changes at whatever level we can.
Okay, so Stephen, you are here today. Tell me a little bit about why.
To speak about the issue and gun violence, support the event that's going on here today. And for this guy, Andrew, my son, who was shot 22 years ago and lost his life because of an illegally trafficked gun, a very familiar story. So I do this to honor his memory and to honor my efforts to at least reduce gun violence. It's just an absolutely devastating event when it happens to your own family. It never goes away. All you do is you pat down the scar tissue.
Do you feel like in the past 22 years has anything changed? Do you feel hopeful?
Lately, yes, because of the kids in Parkland. They showed me the kind of energy that I associate with the anti-war movement back in the 70s. And we may be finally, as a result of a lot of people's efforts, between education and these horrible events occurring at the schools across the country, we may be reaching a tipping point. My gut tells me that we're getting there.
I'm Charles Protege. I'm here at the Wear Orange event in Evanston. It's kind of chilly out here, but it's a good cause. We all know that violence is a huge thing in America, and we're taking a stand to show that we are an unstoppable force. But I'm also here because it's a really important part to me, because I've lost friends, I've lost family, and gun violence is really serious to all the mothers who lost their daughters and sons.
I'm here because ending gun violence is a priority for our society and so important for all our communities. On National Gun Violence Awareness Day, we all have to come together and show the strength of our numbers. We far outnumber those who want safer societies, far outnumber the gun lobby and the NRA.
I'm here on behalf of all the families, victims of gun violence, but especially because my nephew was killed in Missouri at a college party in 2003. He had just turned 20.
I'm Andrea Duncan, and I'm an art therapy intern at Institute for Therapy Through the Arts. We have art therapy, drama therapy, dance movement therapy, and music therapy. And basically, we're out there to promote like healthy living, and they're hoping to help those that maybe are having some struggles.
I'm here because we are trying to stop the violence in, well, wherever it might be, but here in Evanston.
I am here to support the kids who are trying to do something to have sensible laws. We must change the gun laws.
My name is Verda, and I'm a violence prevention educator at the YWCA. We have a lot of programs. I'll tell you about my program first. It's building healthy relationships. We go to different schools in District 65 and 202, starting from kindergarten up to high school, and we teach about healthy relationships and also how we can prevent and identify red flags that we see in relationships that can turn unhealthy. We also have racial justice programs. We have a huge domestic violence program. We have housing, longer-term housing, and emergency housing as well. We provide counseling and legal advocacy programs. So even though we don't have a program that's named Let's Fight Against Gun Violence, but I do believe that all the services that we offer to the community are a huge help in understanding how gun violence is so harmful for us.
Our voices mourn, and our voices demand change. Our voices ring out for Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Columbine, Las Vegas, Orlando, Sutherland Springs, Stoneman Douglas, Santa Fe, and so many more. Our voices ring out for the 3,457 shooting victims in Chicago last year alone. Our voices ring out for Deja Coleman. Our voices ring out for Yaquez Seamark. Our voices ring out for Kaylin Pryor. Our voices ring out for Hidea Pendleton. We are reminded that we cannot sit by and watch our young people die. We take this moment of reflection and create change. Thank you all.
So mass shootings and gang violence are often the gun violence headlines that grab the attention of our country, but in reality, many of the 13,000 gun death victims in the United States every year are innocent bystanders, like Chantel's little sister Carolyn, who was killed by a gunshot not intended for her in 2015.
November 2nd, my sister Carolyn was visiting my grandparents on the south side of Chicago, a visit we've made a million times. On her way back to Evanston, she was hit by a bullet intended for someone standing near her. Despite the efforts by the EMT, my sister passed away. We grew up in Evanston. She went to Oakton and King Lab. She graduated from Evanston Township in 2013. When she was young, Kaylin was on the Evanston soccer team. In middle school, she was on the track and field team at King Lab and a fam cheerleader. In high school, Kaylin won multiple medals in track and field. She was very fast, and she participated as a pom kit and a cheerleader. Kaylin loved being a part of the social athletic activities. She also loved art. She loved to draw and paint. I would tease her and tell her that she needed to set up a cot and sleep in Blick Art Supply store. After high school, my sister started taking classes at Robert Morris. She wanted to become a lawyer. She definitely had the mouth for it. While on break from school, she decided to try out for a modeling competition. She underwent a drastic hair transformation, fitness training, runway walking training for a couple of months. When Kaylin was chosen as the contest winner, she decided to take advantage of the opportunity and use it as a means to pay for her undergraduate degree and eventually law school. Kaylin wanted to find ways to give back to the community. She was a big advocate for the campaign Solve the Violence, a project that brings light to unsolved murders in the Chicago area. She did a photo shoot for the project, which is right below me here, and ironically, her murder still remains unsolved. After Kaylin was taken from her, my mother, Royce, became an activist battling gun violence. She worked as a teacher's aide at Lincolnwood Elementary and King Lab in Evanston when I was younger. In 2016, she spoke at this very event to keep Kaylin's memory alive. She became active with groups like Everytown, Moms Demand Action, and Mothers Against Senseless Killings. With multiple health issues, our mom would still travel to make important speeches and share her memories while spreading gun violence awareness. In October 2016, she spoke at an event in Boston. Upon her return to Chicago, she went into cardiac arrest and passed away. Just 11 months after my sister, I believe she died of a broken heart, and it was the loss of a child due to senseless gun violence. When Traci asked if I could speak, I was going to say no, but still attend the event. I'm an introvert. My mom and sister were extroverts and would have spoken about this matter in a flash. I feel like they are with me, sharing certain facts about an issue that was forced upon our family. Here in America, we have a real issue regarding gun violence. Around 90 people are killed by guns every day. Around 13,000 gun homicides occur a year in the United States. About 50 women are shot and killed by their partners every month. Let's not forget about the mass shootings. A mass shooting is defined as an incident with 4 or more victims. It occurs almost on a daily basis. The deadliest mass shootings have happened recently. In 2017, 58 killed in Vegas. 2016, 49 killed in Orlando. 2017, 25 killed in Texas. 2018, 17 killed in Florida. After every mass shooting, we stand together in solidarity with the victims. We then move on until the next one occurs. This seems to be a recurring pattern. We need to have better gun laws, require background checks, have a wait period, ban assault weapons. Additionally, mandatory training, renewal, and mental screening should be put in place. This could potentially stop a mass shooter. Guns don't need to be in the hands of those who don't meet the requirements. These are obviously small ideas, but we have to start somewhere to make our streets a little better. Thank you.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times that made us laugh outweigh the bad. I thought we get to see forever. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
As I work as an OBGYN, and I have an expertise in dealing with women who suffer from trauma due to intimate partner violence. I was well aware of the threat that guns were to my patients, and 50 women a month in the United States are killed with a gun used by their intimate partner. Women are about 3 times more likely to be killed by a partner when a gun is actually in the home. And I think keeping firearms out of the harms of abusive individuals is just another way that common sense gun legislation, when passed, can keep many at-risk individuals safer in our country.
An honor to be here.
So our next...
I founded People for a Safer Society after the Sandy Hook tragedy. We are a nonprofit community organization dedicated to reducing gun violence and believe that many people taking just small steps can make a huge difference. We know that it is up to us, all of us, to make sure that change happens. All of us are here today because of the gun violence crisis in our communities and our country, and because we want change. In the past months, after a string of tragic shootings, we have seen more and more people get involved across the country. We are now part of this larger nationwide movement. We participated in school walkouts, as well as marches across the country. People are constantly seeking solutions to the gun issue. How can we make meaningful progress towards reducing gun violence? The first action people can take is to get involved in gun violence prevention organizations and other organizations that build community. We decided that we need to advance life-saving legislation to reduce gun violence in Illinois, and that is what we set out to do. In fact, 135 organizations banded together to form the Illinois Gun Violence Prevention Coalition. our joint efforts have been successful. There is currently a bill that would regulate gun dealers in the Illinois legislature. Oversight of gun dealers is critical because right now there's a gap that enables corrupt dealers to go undetected and unpunished, and these corrupt dealers are the source of guns used in crimes in our communities. Illinois Senate Bill 337, the Combating Illegal Gun Trafficking Act, is a newer version of the Gun Dealer Licensing Act. This bill would require gun dealers in Illinois to be certified. The certification would require dealers to implement best business practices to help prevent guns from entering the illegal market and allow law enforcement to crack down on corrupt dealers. So last week, the gun lobby was beating our side by nearly 1,000 witness slips opposing this bill. Through our coalition, activated our networks and were able to surpass the gun lobby by over 200 slips supporting the bill in less than 24 hours before the start of the committee hearing. Legislators in Springfield are taking note of our strength, and I am delighted to say that the bill just passed the Illinois legislature this past Wednesday with bipartisan support and is headed to the governor's desk right now. So we need everyone to call the governor and urge him to sign the bill into law. We had a second victory this past week when a bill creating a firearms restraining order also passed out of the Illinois legislature with a bipartisan vote. This bill would allow family members of people who appear to be a danger to themselves or others to petition the courts to remove firearms on a temporary basis. This bill is also waiting for the governor's signature. So with a single phone call, you can encourage the governor to pass both bills. For every great social movement in history, cooperation is needed to be successful. So today, I'm asking each of you to make a commitment to get involved in the issue as an individual and to be part of our gun violence prevention community.
Hello, everybody. Let's get this party started. I don't like a boring party. Oh, beautiful for spacious heights, forever rays of grace, for purple mountains, majesty, above the fruited plain, be in my heart. I do believe, oh, we shall overcome someday. That's good. We stand hand in hand. We stand hand in hand. We stand hand in hand. Oh yeah. We stand hand in hand someday.
So with graduation coming up at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I just thought I would reflect a little bit about what it's like being a high schooler in 2018. So the many tasks of modern high school include getting to class on time, getting a driver's license, navigating friendships and romantic relationships, and learning about the person you want to be. High school is a time of growth. It is designed to be the bridge between childhood and adulthood, a period of immense change. And yes, popular culture has documented high school's pitfalls excessively. Everyone knows about bullying, social media anxiety, loads of homework, and college applications. But no other generation can say that they witnessed 22 school shootings in the second semester of their senior year. The threat of gun violence is constant. Just yesterday, moments after receiving tickets to graduation, seniors were ushered inside the building, for there had been another shooting just miles away. Students, young adults, sat in the auditorium, confused and afraid, but they did not feel surprised. Code Red drills, the school shooter equivalent of a fire drill, teach us to hide and cover. Constant police brutality teaches young people of color to be afraid and to not give them a reason. The result is that the shame of our nation is burned into the psyche of a generation. And the unintended consequence is that gun violence has awoken the youth. The voices of the victims of generations of racialized gun violence have inspired an awakening of resistance. In the Evanston community alone, the March 14th walkout in the name of gun reform convinced over 2,500 high school students to leave their third period classes and join a national movement against the epidemic of gun violence. Students called for their national and state representatives to resist and dismantle the gun lobby. This brought 9th District Representative Jan Schakowsky into ETHS to talk about issues relating to gun violence. Students had the opportunity to speak to their congresswoman about police brutality, mental health services, and other legislations they wish to see in their lifetime. Students asked the difficult questions. I heard 14-year-olds politely grill Representative Schakowsky about the best way to ensure new gun laws aren't used to target people of color. I witnessed tomorrow's voters become personally engaged in the country's most pressing issues. The generation of gun violence will be the generation to end it.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Phoebe Licardo, and I'm a junior at Evanston Township High School. Thank you. On March 24th, 2018, I went to Washington, D.C. and took part in the March for Our Lives. For 3 hours, I stood watching as student after student took the stage less than a mile away from the Capitol building and poured their hearts out with stories of how gun violence has ripped apart their lives. Every story I heard broke my heart more so than the last, and just as I felt that nothing could make me more angry, more moved, or more motivated than I already was, Emma Gonzalez took the stage. Nothing that I experienced that day will stay with me more than the way that I felt in the silence of Emma Gonzalez. As I stood in the silence of Emma Gonzalez, I felt a sense of devastation, desperation, and a need to do more than I already was in that moment. In the silence of Emma Gonzalez, I felt powerful, and I felt that I could do more than I was. And I felt that change was not only possible, but essential for humanity. But more than anything, as I stood in a crowd of 500,000 people, in the 6 minutes and 20 seconds that Emma Gonzalez was on stage, I felt that I couldn't just be present anymore. Being present is important, but being present and staying silent is not something that we can survive. Gun violence can no longer be classified as a street issue or a gang issue. It isn't a drug issue, it isn't a school issue, and it isn't a mental health issue. Gun violence isn't an issue, it is an epidemic. Friends are dying, brothers are dying, sisters are dying, human beings are dying, and too many people are choosing to stay silent. It's not enough to bring attention to the epidemic of gun violence. We must bring change to the epidemic of gun violence. This past school year, I worked with fellow students to plan the ETHS walkout against gun violence. In this walkout, we were able to do more than just raise our voices against gun violence, but we were able to feel the power that we have as a student body. As I looked around at my classmates and at my friends, I was reminded of the importance of human life. And as I heard my classmates speak, I understood that continuing to ignore this issue was not an option, and that choosing to support the lives of human beings is the only option that we have left. But the greatest honor that I have experienced throughout the past few months has been working with and feeding off the passion of my fellow student activists. Once in a campaign speech, Barack Obama said, "A change is brought about because ordinary people do extraordinary things." Not only do I believe that the students that I have had the honor of working with have done extraordinary things, but I truly believe that they have inspired me and encouraged me to do extraordinary things. However, no matter how extraordinary your actions may be, no change can be brought about through silence. Future lives taken by gun violence cannot be saved by the number of prayers sent to God, but they can be saved by the number of phone calls you make to representatives. Lives taken by gun violence cannot be saved by the length of a presidential apology, but they can be saved by the length of a voter line ready to vote them out. The lives taken by gun violence cannot be saved by increasing accessibility to guns, but they can be saved by increasing how much you choose to make your voice heard. Now, I will be the first to admit that for a long time I didn't use my voice. I was present, but I was silent. My freshman and sophomore year, I was a part of student government at ETHS, but I stayed quiet and let others do what I was too afraid or too nervous or too insecure to do. It wasn't until my junior year that I was truly able to recognize the lives and the well-being of human beings is more important than my fears or insecurities will ever be. It is not about how quiet you have been in the past, but about how loud you are in the present and the impact that you choose to make on the future. Standing here before you all today is a privilege and a role that I do not take lightly. Throughout my life, I've found myself in opportunities to make change, and I understand that that has been because of my privilege as a white student growing up in Evanston, as well as my passion for creating change. As soon as I understood how much privilege I carried, I also understood the responsibility that came with it and the impact that I hope to leave on the world. So if I leave you all with anything today, let it be this. Gunshots are not silent. When they echo down the halls of a school, gunshots are not silent. When they are blowing with the wind through the trees of a neighborhood, gunshots are not silent. When they take the life of a human being, gunshots are not silent. So we cannot be silent. Thank you so much.
I'm both honored and humbled to be here with you all today. To see such support for this community is just so gratifying for myself. I'm Nathan Norman. I'm with the Youth and Young Adult Division. I have been for the past going on 7 years, I should say. In our division, we support the young people of Evanston each and every day, and we try to provide them with opportunities to come out of the streets, to further their education, resources, to provide them with resources, and also to connect them with job opportunities, trying to catch them early to prevent them from going into a lifestyle of crime, or some individuals who've been affected by crime or gun violence. We try to lead them out of those situations and provide them with a more positive and productive path. Mr. Brown gave me a shot 7 years ago, and I've always been grateful for that. When I think about the gun violence in Evanston and how it affects not only the families, but also how it spills out into the community, it incenses me. I myself have not only had challenges when I was younger that were surrounded around gun violence, but I myself, as working outreach and working for the city of Evanston, have experienced gun violence on a personal level. My cousin was murdered in 2014 on 1900 block of Brown, and that was a tragic situation. Another way in which I'm so close to gun violence is whenever there's a shooting or it's a homicide in Evanston, we walk the streets with the mayor. How you doing, Mayor Hagerty? We walk the streets with the mayor, and we see how we see the ramifications of violence in our community, and just walking to those doors and seeing those families whose son or loved one has been murdered, and then the neighbors wondering if it's okay to still take the kids to the park because this tragedy has happened on their block. And I want you guys to know that you have a division that is dedicated to going to those parks, going on those blocks, going in those streets, and trying to prevent gun violence from happening, trying to stop the retaliation from happening. But you're welcome, because we know that retaliation just continues to perpetuate these problems. We know that, this side and that side, they want to keep going back and forth. So we're getting right to the problems. We're going right to what's going on and trying to prevent those things from happening. Another thing I like to make the community aware of today is that this summer we're working with the Addie Watt Center of Nonviolence to hire young individuals to take the Kingian nonviolence training, so that we can try to implement a culture of peace, not only with our students at ETHS, so that also spills out into the community, because we understand that a community with no violence is a peaceful community, and that's very important. The Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program is a very, very intricate program, and it's a tool for us in outreach, because we know that young people that are working, that are being productive, that equals and creates a more productive and safe summer, especially for our young people. And so I wanted to make you guys aware of some of the things we're doing in our division to be proactive, and and some carrots we're using, such as jobs and resources and the furtherance of education, to pull these young people who are not engaged, some of these young people that we would call at-risk youth or opportunity youth. We're using these things to pull them away from a path of destruction and towards some more positive. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi all, I'm Molly Hornstein. I wanted to first start off by saying that we are all every day impacted by gun violence. Gun violence can happen anywhere at any time to anyone. We, of all colors, creeds, and kinds, are at a junction where our lives, our children's lives, our siblings' lives, our friends' lives are on the line, and so we, as a whole, must work to halt the killing of hundreds of thousands of people every year with guns. The effects of gun violence reflect the nature of our world, as they are varied enough to affect us all, even in our very different and distinct lives, as well as show us the commonalities of human nature. We can relate to each other because the feelings of loss and devastation are common in mothers who lose their sons walking home from school in Chicago, and fathers who lose daughters in a school shooting in Florida. Because we are all affected by gun violence, we all have a responsibility to fight against the GOP, against the NRA, and against the epidemic of gun violence that is sweeping the nation. In order to truly combat this plague of gun violence, we must stand together, we must be united, and we must act as one in the face of the powerful gun lobby. We are united in our fear, but also in our courage. We must not let ourselves and this nation become riddled with fear. Fear divides the country, it fractures movements, it sends each of us down our own individual paths with no hope of changing the system. Combating this fear is possible. It is something that can be done by each and every one of us, and it can be done every day. Organizing an event for my community on behalf of the Unique Fan Fellows Initiative to share the effects and solutions to gun violence with those I hold near and dear to my heart enlightened me on this topic. Before, I thought of gun violence as an ambiguous and far-off threat, and supposed that my living in Evanston would protect me from the worst of its consequences. After seeing Phil Andrew engage in conversation with Diamond Acasio and Rihanna Holman, my perception of the fight against gun violence was radically changed. I saw individuals from entirely different backgrounds, from different neighborhoods, of different races and genders, explaining the pervasive and destructive nature of gun violence on their homes. I saw drastically different people bond over their goal to end gun violence. I saw connections being formed and breakthroughs being made, and more than all of that, I saw people standing up in the face of gun violence and finding solace in other people who really, truly, deeply care about one another. And so, speaking here today, I want to stress the importance of small-scale actions that all of us can make every day, which shape the effects of gun violence on our world. First, we can all practice radical hospitality. We can all unceasingly treat each other with openness and love. We can include others. We can all show interest in each other and respect for thoughts and feelings. We can all treat every other person with kindness and demonstrate we understand their worth. Second, we all can spread this knowledge. We can leave this rally with the intention of telling our friends. We can leave this rally with the intention of continuing to organize. We can keep ourselves and those we love informed about the continuous struggle against gun violence. We can all look up SB 337 in the Illinois General Assembly and call Governor Rauner to ensure that it becomes law. We can share the fact that more than half of the guns confiscated by CPD in the last 10 years have been bought outside of our state. We can share opportunities to protest, to share our opinions, and to build community. And we can use knowledge as a tool and a weapon against the gun lobby. Third, we can understand our own relationship to gun violence happening around us. We can remember that less than 2% of gun deaths occur from school shootings.
and that the majority of people killed by guns each year are systemically oppressed and undermined. We can understand white privilege, suburban privilege, and how our identities affect our fight against gun violence. We can remember that people are dying just hours away from our homes every day, and that gun control legislation has to help all of us. And finally, we can continue to care. We can do all these things and more in the name of stopping senseless violence. We cannot forget about the plight of millions of Americans put at risk every day by exposure to gun violence. We can continue our relentless battle against gun violence as long as it takes, and we can find power in each other to stay strong.
Justin helped me work on the gun buyback because at that point, no one really knew what was the success for it. And the kids said, well, we want cash. We want cash. We want to know that we can turn this gun in and not feel threatened or arrested for trying to do something. Talked to convicted felons who said, well, you know, you place an emphasis on guns all the time, but it's not just guns. It's the bullets. It's the paraphernalia that goes along with the gun. It's just important as the gun. So we adapted that input as well for our gun buyback. So that was what made it so successful, because it was a community movement that involved the churches, that involved the people feeling comfortable to reestablish that trust in this community. That's what is going to make a difference. So I'll then take it to the empowerment of being invited to the national address by then President Barack Obama. And I just heard his impactful speech about gun violence. And I was sitting in that seat, and all I could think of is, I'm not going to sit anymore. And in the State of the Union address back in 2013, I stood up in the halls and I did not sit down. Barack Obama looked at me in the corner of his eye, and I tell you, I just felt like the blood had to be represented. From the children, from the people who are slain with gun violence, it had to be represented. So I put that picture up and I stood there, and I could hear the cameras clicking, but I could not sit down, not another day. I could not listen to another news story. I could not have another phone call from another mother who lost her child. And I did it for us. The legislation is so important. The support to organizations that work against gun violence is so important. And not everybody raised their hand because they were affected by gun violence, but at the rate that the gun violence that we're seeing in this community, in this nation, I don't want you to have to raise your hand, but more than likely, if we don't do something right now, you will be raising your hand. Sorry's not going to bring my son back. It's just not. And I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm here to make you feel empowered.
I'm the founder of Dear Evanston, which addresses issues of race, equity, and youth gun violence in Evanston. Dear Evanston is almost 3 years old, and it relies on a Facebook page, a website, and activities like this one to tell the stories in our community about leaders, activists, organizations, and events, and to amplify the voices of people who are less often heard. Dear Evanston works to bring our community together to talk and learn, and then to advocate and act. Dear Evanston's focus is hyper-local, because I believe our power to make change lies in getting to know and value and work together with people right around us who are the same as us and who are different than us. The old adage, think globally, act locally. Dear Evanston started as a social media project around youth gun violence in Evanston, and it became clear very quickly that we can't talk about reducing or ending gun violence without recognizing and working to repair its many and varied historical causes. And of course, we can't talk about any kind of gun violence without talking about the gun culture in this country and the overwhelming availability of guns, both legal and illegal, in the Chicago area, and of course right here. To reduce gun violence, we must work from two angles: legislation, and community empowerment. We have to get illegal guns off our streets, hold gun dealers accountable, and work for more sensible gun laws. But we must also address the intergenerational trauma of slavery, racism, segregation, and inequity, and the havoc these have wrought that often lead to hopelessness in our young people and to violence, poverty, mental health, lack of employment opportunities, inequity in education, disenfranchisement, drug addiction, the list goes on. In Evanston, there are so many outstanding individuals and organizations working tirelessly every single day to address these issues. Some of them are here today, and please take time to go and look around at what tables are here and talk to the people who are at the tables. And find out how you can get involved. There are many organizations also that aren't here today as well. Please check out dearevanston.org. I have a list on my Facebook page and on my website it's an ongoing list and a growing list of organizations and groups that work on these issues, and you can get involved. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the City of Evanston's Youth and Young Adult Division and its amazing team of outreach workers led by Kevin Brown, who I think I saw. Oh, stand up. Kevin Brown and Nathan Norman, who I'm going to have the honor of introducing in a little bit. Since 2012, these dedicated people who are not well enough known, and too often unsung heroes, they walk the streets of Evanston talking to our young people, advising them, listening to them, helping them, guiding them, redirecting them, connecting them and their families to people and places that can assist them. They are trusted implicitly by our young people. They interrupt violence. They encourage a culture of peace. They help kids find jobs year-round and during the summer. They find housing. They help expunge criminal records that are barriers to jobs and housing. And they do so much more. Right now, their department is at serious risk of being reduced or eliminated because of the city's budget crisis. We can't allow that to happen. If you haven't already, please make sure to fill out your budget surveys that are online on the City of Evanston's website. Let the city know how much their work is needed and how much you value it. I could rattle off an alphabetical list of all the other organizations in Evanston that are working for equity, for social services support, and to reduce gun violence. But please visit my website and it will connect you to all of these organizations. You can work to reduce gun violence in so many ways, directly or indirectly. You can fight for school equity with OPAL. You can empower families with Family Focus and the YMCA. You can support youth by drinking your coffee at Kurtz Cafe. You can learn about Evanston's Black history at Shorefront Legacy Center. You can stop the school to prison pipeline with the Moran Center. You can organize, support, and empower African American families and ideas in Evanston with Evanston Collective. You can fight racism and domestic abuse with the YWCA. You can learn about restorative justice with Peaceable Cities Evanston. You can come to the EFAM picnic in August. You can support the NAACP. There's something each of us can do in a small way. So thank you for being here to stand up against gun violence. But attending a rally is only as good as the action you're inspired to take afterwards. Please take action, get involved, volunteer, donate to the local organizations that work to prevent gun violence and strengthen our youth and families. Sign witness slips, sign petitions, fill out your city survey. We won't solve it all here or now, but where there are people willing to take action, there is hope. I believe that working together across racial boundaries for a more equitable community is the ultimate way to stop gun violence. A few nights ago, Congressman John Lewis spoke at the Moran Center's gala. He told the gathering that to be a leader, you have to be a headlight, not a tail light. Of course, Congressman Lewis has lived with his headlights on very, very bright. We can't all be John Lewis, but we can each be a leader in our own small way, just by standing up, speaking out, and acting up. Lewis said that we have to make necessary trouble to make change. Let's make necessary trouble. And now I want to...
And our dancers today are Drew Coleman, Caroline Castillo, and Isaiah Cheaton. Thank you.
If it wasn't for love, I'll be there. 'Cause I was born of sorrow and despair.
And I spoke and I said, you know, why is it that on a Friday night I can't take my children anywhere? There's nothing open. There's nothing for them to do. And I remember then an alderman ran behind me and invited me to a group meeting that turned into an organization that led into the summer youth and adult division, as well as the fact that Evanston was changing. It was coming off of a homicide, and a bunch of people got together and they were outraged and they wanted to do something in the community. Well, in addition to that, I heard gunshots coming out of my window. Every night we go to bed and
the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, or in the case of gun violence, doing nothing and expecting different results. The definition of absurdity is thinking that the solution to gun violence is to have more guns. Open carry, concealed carry, teachers packing heat. These are the solutions we have to gun violence? No. If this sounds absurd, and I'm glad you think it does, it is absurd. You need to rise up and be heard. Our country needs your leadership. Elected officials need to hear from everyone. We need you to use your social media skills, young people, your marketing, your persuasion, your youthful optimism, and the technical skills you are learning in your schools and elsewhere to help us solve this absurd problem. You can lead from wherever you are on this issue. As a citizen, an activist, a business person, an actor, a faith leader, a marketer, you name it. Gun violence affects all of us. But for the grace of God, any of us could be the next victim of a gun shooting. I will tell you this. No one person solves this problem. Although I did have a dream that I solved it. And I'm going to share my dream because there are a lot of smarter people out here than I am. And my dream was that I developed a device. And it was sort of like the cell phone silencer device where you go into the theater and your cell phone doesn't work. And this device prohibited guns from working in that facility. So we developed this device. You put it in a school or a movie theater or a church, and there can never be a shooting there because the device somehow disables a gun. That was my dream, and I thought it was a good dream. Now hopefully there's some smart people out here who can actually take that dream, execute it. I think we need material scientists and a lot of other smart people, but I see them out here in the audience. Some people will say that I don't often get emotional or fired up enough. I'm too measured. But the fact of the matter is, this issue is getting me fired up. It is getting so many people fired up. There are more people at this rally than there were a couple years ago, and we're going to continue to see that until we get sensible gun laws in this country. As mayor, one of the nice aspects of this job is I get to give proclamations. So it is my honor on behalf of the city of Evanston and the Evanston City Council to announce today, June 2nd, National Gun Violence Awareness Day. The proclamation reads, whereas June 2nd, 2018 would have been the 21st birthday of Hidayah Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade and was killed shortly after, a few weeks. And whereas to help honor Hidayah and the 96 Americans whose lives are cut short and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated today, June 2nd, 2018, as the 4th annual Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadaya's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, they chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange is the color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 2nd to help raise awareness about gun violence. Thank you, everyone. There's a lot of orange out there. Whereas we renew our commitment to gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now, therefore, I, Stephen Howard Hagerty, the mayor of the city of Evanston, Illinois, do hereby proclaim today, June 2nd, 2018, as National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and encourage all citizens to support their local community efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value all of those whose human lives have been affected. Witness under my hand and corporate seal, the city of Evanston, with today's date.
She has information on the gun buyback that will occur Saturday, June 9th. And I need to emphasize this is an amnesty operation. Nobody gets arrested. We just need to see an ID so we can document it, and you'll receive $100 cash for the gun. I want to thank the private donors who made these funds available to purchase these firearms. None of these firearms are being purchased with public tax dollars. I'd also like to thank, thank you. I'd also like to thank Reverend Ken Cherry for making his Christ Temple Church available for this gun buyback, to have this safe space where people will feel comfortable turning in their guns. This is the second time that Reverend Cherry has done this, and I want to thank him for that effort. The guns need to be unloaded, operational, complete, functional, transported in a case, an ID from Evanston, Skokie, or the north side of Chicago, and again, amnesty-based, no arrest. We're taking the gun with no questions asked. If you have any questions,
so I can read this. Okay. You said it was mental. A mental illness, something wrong like a mother who can't grieve because a little boy down the street can buy a gun more easily than a pack of cigarettes. Because this is America. And I've learned a thing or two about mental illness, how it was harvested, how the bloody skulls belonging to men of color would be battered against the walls of institutionalized prisons. And yet a diagnosis of mental illness is too kind. Oh, but we are blind to the rifles that kill school children, to the rifle and to the white man holding it. America says mental illness, and mental illness is so real. But its use is purely a secret, protecting rich to a golden seal, the NRA to its profits, and human life to a deal. Because guns kill people. Because guns have been killing my people, and their bodies have been piling up on the bottom of the Mississippi River, and now babies' bodies' blood spills over textbooks. How many more babies? How many shrieks and pops and cracks will it take for you to find a piece of your soul? Guns have been killing people, and their names have been forgotten. Medgar Evers, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, Black lives have never mattered. But now it is clear that kindergartners, that high schoolers, their lives are less valuable than the profit that fills your pockets. In this act, you have committed the worst mistake, uniting white and people of color in a blinding frustration after feeding us to crime, immigrants' bodies shoved into detention centers, then into communities where light is gone and survival is empty bellies which you have fed and filled with the guns you sold us. Guns kill people. And you don't seem to care which communities they kill anymore. It's come to my attention you intend to save us with more guns. Instead of life, you force death to fight death, placing guns in the hands of our professors in an effort to protect us. But all that we need protecting from is you who do not know the basic laws of light, that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. You said thoughts and prayers. Was it thoughts and prayers that you hoped to save us with? You told us to see something, say something. You said, see something, say something. Dear founding fathers, our founding fathers, did you see this? When you left scratched into Constitution a well-regulated militia, could you see that barrels of bullets would fly through windows where education was intended? Could you not see the way a president's clothes would become drenched in blood, his pockets full with each dollar bill that the NRA provided? Could you not see it? Have you forgotten the lives? Do you not hear their names when you sleep? Can you not hear the bullets that blaze through to take breath? Yaquez, Deja, Scott Beagle, Martin Aguiano, and those under the age of 10, do you not hear their laughter being pulled out into blackness? Their voices crying, this land was made for you and me. Charlotte Bacon, Anna Green, Noah Posner, can you not hear them? Could you not see this? You said, see something, say something. They say, see something, say something. The school children, we see something. The college students, they see something. Emma Gonzalez, she sees something. Tomorrow, he sees something, and we are saying something. We are saying something. Will you say something? We will organize. We will shut down schools. We will protest and yell, united. History will tell the story, and your true colors will bleed through its books and off of the lips of those who refuse to forget. We hear stolen lives, laughter, and we hold it. We will not exist in silence. We will not live in a world, in a society where human life is worthless. We see something. On our founding fathers and on the pockets that keep the rich full, we will continue to say something. Thank you.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Yeah, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is mighty. Everybody, one more time, say glory, glory, hallelujah, hallelujah, glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory.
We're pleading with our Congress to pass sensible gun restriction laws for the safety of all humankind, for our grandchildren and for your grandchildren, and for the future. She's more.